Okay, Mike Masato, CEO of Staff Driven Dental and the Dental Road Warrior, turning for episode 113 in the series. So today I want to talk about your exit strategy. And it's kind of strange when you have a dental coach who basically works with practices to have them be better and generate more revenue and grow. Talk about this because most of the time I spend with my coaches working with clients for practices that are for doctors that are going to be around for a lot longer in the game and working on their practices. They're really not thinking about when the end. They don't go into they don't have the end in mind. It's just like it's year to year. Younger, not thinking about it. But truthfully, you should always be thinking about what your exit is going to look like, because the foundation of that is being laid every single day in your practice or not. And then we get to the end of the game, as I'm finding with a lot of doctors that I'm meeting that are further along in their careers that come to me, and they haven't had a plan all along, and now they're about 5, 6, 7, 10 years out, and they don't know what to do because they don't know, what's the practice worth? What am I going to get from it? Who's going to buy it from me? Where do I go? Etc. And one thing you can't do is go back and make up for all that lost time. So if you've been underproducing, not growing at a proper rate, not profitable for a long period of time, showing a loss, etc., you're not going to turn that around. You can't go back and fix that. Right? All I can be responsible for is from the present going forward. So it's really the ones the doctors that that are most successful that I'm looking at right now are the ones that have had a keen sense of business and really have looked at it and worked on it year to year, every year as a business, not just as a place to crank out dentistry and help patients and make ends meet. So and just run the practice. So really, what is your exit strategy going to be? There should be some kind of plan in place. You should start thinking about this. And how many more years do you have to be doing this to be financially in a place to be able to say, you know what, I can ride off into the sunset and do what I want to do in the next phase of my career. Maybe you keep your hands in dentistry, whatever, that's right. But the most valuable asset you have is your life's work, your practice. This is everything you put into your practice. This is your life that you've done this. What do you want to get? Pennies on the dollar for what you've done? No, you want to cash out as best you can. And then everybody's worried about the big bad DSOs. Now, recently I spent a lot of time looking into DSOs because my clients ask me a lot about DSOs. Is this the future? Is this the way I should go? What do you think? Look, like anything else, this is what I say. There's good and bad in everything, right? There's good and bad DSOs. There's ones that are just like mills. They don't care about quality, your patient's quantity. They want to make you a slave in your own practice. So you hear all the horror stories. And there's ones that are not. There's different kinds of models out there. There's different kinds of DSOs that are out there. And it can be a viable option for you to do. But I can tell you one thing about DSOs is they're going to look at your numbers, and they're going to do forensic accounting, and they're going to look inside and out and everything, and they're going to let you know what the true value of your practice is. As much as you think it may be, and I can tell you, usually you think it's worth a lot more than it really is. It's different when you go to private sale. When you're going to sell your practice, there's a difference to a private buyer, another doctor coming out of school, or somebody local, or an associate. It's a different kind of method. A broker comes to you. There's a different way they look at things. They take a percentage of revenue, annual revenue over so many years, and that's the way they value out the practice. Whereas a DSO, where you can make a lot more money for your practice, looks at really about your profitability. That EBITDA, as we've heard before, there, which I'm not going to get into this video, but that's really what it's at. And then if your practice is showing a loss year after year after year, that's not good. That's not good for them. They don't want to see that, right? But if it's showing gains and you want to see the practice going up, and that's what everybody should be doing. Right? When I work with a practice, my goal is to get them showing an increase year over year over year. Right? You don't want plateaued. You don't want to be having me stuck for 4, 5, 6, 7 straight years making quote unquote the same money even though you're not. Not a good place to be there, or even worse yet, going down. So there's got to be some kind of intervention early on to get the practice in the right direction, making the kind of money, showing a positive growth, and not to mention they look at the infrastructure of the practice. What kind of staff do we have here? What kind of associate doctors are in there? If we buy this practice out, can we keep the doctor on? Is there going to be something in place here? Or we have to start all over again? They look at these factors. So it can be a good option for you. Done the right way. And if you need to get in contact with me, we'll have some questions about this. I can put you in touch with the right people that'll put you in and help you on that path to getting a real true valuation of where your practice stands. Is what you should do. you really should get a current valuation of your practice, unless you're listening to this and you're way early in the game. But if you're been at this and you can say you're within 10 years, 5 years or so going out, you should get an idea what is it worth right now and what can be done to make it more valuable. What do I need to do in the eyes of maybe a DSO acquisition, and also maybe am I going to package it with other practices? That's another thing. You get more valuable if you can become more of a group sale. If there's other offices like I have several clients come together and then they all go out and shop it all at one time as a group, a package of practices. That's what DSOs like to buy sometimes, whether the individual practices. A lot of variables here, all right? But look, so when you think about exit, what are the ways you can go? Well, you could have your kids take it over, and for those of you that have kids in dental school, and that's great. If you're in a position in your life that you don't need to make any more money on the sale because you're financially set, and you can just cede it over to your kids, and that's fantastic if you can do that, great. Or you have a really a sweetheart deal when they pay you something and are working with you for a bit and you're apprenticing them and handing it over to your son or daughter, fantastic. See that a lot. So for those of you who don't have kids going to dental school, then you have the associate situation. Do you have an associate in there? And is the associate really a qualified buyer? Does this person have the means at some point to say, you know what, I'm going to buy you out? And a lot of times, I see practices that have associates in there. They're just workers. They're just producers. They're not there. They're not qualified buyers at some point. So you might have to think about, do I want to stick with this person long term? If they're gonna, or get someone who's more vested, who can maybe buy me out someday, right? Or if you're looking for an associate, that's what you should do at this stage. If you're later stages of your career, bring an associate in who's got the means, building up some sweat equity, and at some point will buy the practice out from you. And it'll be valuable to them because, again, patients know him or her, they know the practice, there's comfort level there. It'll be a lot less value lost in transition, unless you sell it, unless from selling it sight unseen to somebody. So it's good to get a qualified buyer associate in there who's going to work with you for a bit before handing over the practice. There's that. Right? Then, of course, there's a broker where you put it out to a broker and they get a buyer. Buyer comes in and just buys it out from under you at a certain period of time, and you're here one day, gone the next, or you let people know with a letter, your patients know with a letter that you're no longer the owner and this owner is here, and there's that whole aspect of how that's going to go down, right? Which can work or not work depending upon how it's done, and there's that. So, and then there's the DSOs like I told you about, or there's also DPOs. There's a lot of different variations of that. You have to think about which is going to be the best exit for you, and what's the game plan going to be to get there. But I can tell you, for those of you that are listening to my videos and have heard me over the years doing this, one of the things, the business aspect of your practice is the thing you need to look at. This is one of the things we don't look at every single day. You need to be working on this business every single day, all the time, and numbers should matter. It's tax season, as you're probably hearing this video right now, and many of you are just getting the bad news, like, hey, how'd I do last year? This is a question you shouldn't be asking your accountant right now, at tax time. Like, how'd I do? You should know how you've done going in, or pretty much how close, or good or bad ahead of time. It shouldn't be the accountant has to give you that news. That means you're not even aware of what's happening, right? This is something that to be in tune with your business and tracking. They hear about the big buzzword of now is KPIs, the key performance indicators, right? Great, nice word. I love key performance indicators. We can call them whatever you want to call them. I call them key stats to track, whatever it may be. But these key performance indicators, first you have to know what they are. First you have to have them. Then you got to track them. And then you got to be doing something to make sure that we hit the key performance indicators. We hit those goals. We hit those levels, right? So it's nice to talk about these things. It all sounds great, but it's all pie in the sky unless we're working on our business all the time. And it's okay to bring help in, get professional coaching and help to get the house in order. I just brought on some very large clients recently, and they are on the track to go DSO on their own. Great, but you know what the missing factor is? It's really working on infrastructure, working on training and development of your team, right? And you've heard me say many times before, every dollar flows through them. They make or break you every single day. So it's good if they know what they're doing and how to do it, right? And that's taught by people like us that understand the business of operations every day. That's the key thing, all right? So if you don't have a strategy, the moral of this video, get one for exit. You're gonna have a plan or a long-term plan, and it could be shorter or longer depending upon where you are in your career. But it's okay to start thinking with the end in mind, okay? Because everything you're doing right now is determining how much you're going to cash out and how much you're going to make for the value of your practice at the end of the game. And it should be maximum value, right? That's the whole goal. We don't want to be, getting out of it because we have to, or we're done and I just want to unload this thing. I've seen a lot of that lately, which is a shame. You know, that all this work we've done, and we're going to walk away with a few $100,000 after 30 years of work. Shouldn't be that way, all right? You do have a valuable asset, but it needs attention, it needs care. You know, it's like, you know, getting a classic automobile, and it's like maybe a piece of junk, but you restore it, and then it becomes a really valuable asset that somebody's bought. It's kind of the same thing with your practice. You got to work on this thing to develop it and refine it and improve it, and you know, turn it into a well-oiled machine and a great operation that's showing great numbers, right? Get all that lined up so when you bring it out ultimately to sale to who's going to get it from you, you're going to make top value for what you deserve in your retirement as you ride off into the sunset. All right, so I hope you're enjoying these videos and you're watching, and please share them with others, and I'll be back soon with another installment.